You know what's wild? In 2026, companies are still having to rely on sending confidential documents to external contractors for translation, basically crossing their fingers and hoping nothing leaks. Today, we're exploring how that's about to change completely.
Well, that's a fascinating point. Most people assume document translation is a solved problem because of AI, but there's this whole hidden world of security risks nobody talks about.
Exactly. And what really caught my attention is how this connects to some major data breaches we've seen. Remember that incident last year where a Fortune 500 company's strategic plans leaked because a contractor's laptop was compromised?
Oh, wow, that's right. And wasn't there also that pharmaceutical company that had confidential research documents exposed through a translation vendor's cloud storage?
That's the one. And here's what's really interesting. These aren't isolated incidents. Industry reports show that about 60% of companies have experienced some form of data exposure through third-party document handling. So that's why I'm so excited to introduce this service that Slide AI Translator is offering.
So what makes Slide AI Translator's approach so different? Because I'm guessing it's more than just better AI translation.
Yes, I'm still wrapping my head around it, but this technology has the potential to fundamentally change how document translation is done worldwide. It enables faster, higher quality translations at lower cost, while meeting the information security requirements that come with handling confidential data. And I believe that's an industry first. Well, the breakthrough is really in completely rethinking the workflow. Instead of uploading files to servers, they've created a clever sandbox engine that keeps documents inside your browser while they're being translated. The file never needs to be sent to any servers, such as over email, saved to cloud storage, shared through messaging apps, stored on a third-party translator's hard drive, or captured in chat logs.
That sounds almost too good to be true. How does that actually work in practice?
So here's the technical breakdown. When you load a document, your browser downloads a secure sandbox environment. And I want to be clear, you don't need to install any software or browser extensions. This sandbox technology has been around for quite some time. It's the same type of technology used by applications like Google Earth running directly in your browser. Your browser and computer are doing most of the work by sending and receiving only the limited information they need, all within this secure environment. Think of it like a virtual safe being created inside your browser. From there, a secure pipeline is established to relay only the text that needs to be translated. That text is processed using a high-quality, translation-capable API, such as OpenAI's GPT 5.2, with safeguards in place to ensure the data is not retained or used for training. Once the translation is complete, the same secure pipeline feeds the translated text back into the document. The key point is that the only thing that ever leaves your computer is the text that needs translation, not images, graphs, or the document structure. From a security and confidentiality standpoint, especially when AI-based translation is required or highly desired, this represents a solution that has not previously been possible.
And there's actually a way to prove this, right? I think you were trying to show me earlier with your iPhone.
Exactly. It's brilliantly simple. You can test this by creating a large PowerPoint file, something like 300 megabytes, by adding a video to the deck. Then connect your laptop to your phone's hotspot and watch how little data is actually transferred. The sandbox itself, which is downloaded once, is about 30 megabytes. But in terms of upload activity, you'll see that the massive PowerPoint file never actually uploads. And when you retrieve the translated file, you're simply copying it from your browser back onto your computer.
That's such a clever way to verify it. I think I understand now. But let's talk about the text formatting issue you were describing earlier, because that's where most professional document translators are still having to do most of the work.
Oh man, the formatting nightmares. Now that AI is doing the heavy lifting, people are realizing that it is still quite the chore to reapply the formatting to emphasize the same words or meaning to a translated sentence.
Right, there is just no way for machine translation to be able to reliably find the right translated words to emphasize with formatting.
That's what we used to think. And here's what's fascinating. They've solved this by tracking what they call meaning level formatting. It's not just about keeping the document layout in place, it's about understanding why certain words are bold or italicized in the first place.
Could you give an example of how that works?
Sure. Imagine a slide that says, "We expect delivery in about 2 weeks." In English, the part you'd naturally stress is about, because that one word changes the meaning. It tells you it's an estimate, not a promise. Now, when you translate into another language, the sentence often gets rearranged, and about doesn't always show up as a neat little word in the same place. Sometimes it becomes a different kind of phrase, or it attaches to the time expression. What matters is that the emphasis still lands on the idea of, this is an estimate. So the translated sentence should still feel like, we're giving you a time frame, but don't treat it as exact.
That's really clever. And I imagine this becomes even more critical when you're dealing with things like financial reports or legal documents.
Absolutely crucial. And here's a stat that blew my mind. They found that even experienced translators using AI tools need about 45 minutes per slide to properly handle formatting in a professional presentation.
Well, that explains why translation services are so expensive.
Yeah. Historically, professionally translated documents were usually reserved for critical materials or client-facing deliverables. That's because the people who do this well need a pretty rare combination of skills: high fluency in 2 languages, strong writing ability, and the patience to do very detailed, time-consuming work.
Right.
Maybe this is a topic for another discussion, but what if document translation became so cost-effective that people could translate things just for themselves, purely to understand them better?
You mean like if someone sends you a PowerPoint in another language, you could translate it for your own reading, not relying on something like ChatGPT to summarize it for you and hoping it didn't miss something important, like a chart or a table?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean.
Yeah, I could totally use that. And you're right, it usually doesn't make sense to pay for a professional translator if you're the only person who's going to read it. But it would be incredibly useful to read that same document with the layout preserved and everything in your native language.
That's exactly the use case Slide AI Translator enables. They offer a low-cost, basic translation option specifically for situations like that. And I believe they even give free users monthly credits so people can do this without overthinking it.
Interesting. So it's not just a better document translator. It can impact how people work day to day in a global environment.
Now you get it.
All right, I appreciate it. I'm going to have to try it later.
For sure.
So moving on, tell me about this chat-first workflow.
This is where it gets really interesting. Instead of navigating complex menus, you can literally just type instructions like a conversation. Translate to Korean, keep legal terms formal, use American currency format. But they like to tout on their front page that all you really need to do is type one word, the language you want to translate the document into, and it will handle the translation.
That sounds much more intuitive than traditional translation software.
And what's really powerful is how it handles industry-specific requirements. Like, you can tell it, always translate manufacturing division as Chejobumun in Korean, and it maintains that consistency throughout the entire document.
Fascinating. It really sounds like they understand their target users' needs. Now, how do you think this solution will affect the document translation industry as a whole?
You know, I've been thinking about that too. We might see a major shift in how professional translation services operate. Instead of sending documents to external translation agencies, companies may start bringing more of that work in-house using secure tools like this. But it's not necessarily taking translators out of the equation. Companies with strict security requirements have traditionally been limited by the capacity of their in-house translators, simply because their files can't leave the company. And I don't think this will take business away from translators. Slide AI Translator will make translators' jobs much easier, allow them to spend more time delivering higher quality documents, and free them up to take on more work as well. At the same time, it enables companies that were previously restricted from using translation services at all, because those services required sending files to third parties, to finally use modern translation tools safely.
That would have huge implications for confidentiality in industries like legal and healthcare.
Exactly. And there's another angle we haven't discussed, the time savings. When you factor in all the back and forth with external translators, security reviews, and formatting fixes, a typical 20-page document translation project can take a week.
And this system brings that down to what?
From what I've seen, most documents can be translated within minutes. And because the file never leaves your system, you don't need to go through all those security approval processes.
That's a game changer for international business operations.
And here's what I find really fascinating. This could actually lead to more accurate translations. Because when people aren't worried about time and security, they have more time to focus on the final polish of the deliverables.
That's such a good point. Without the fear of having to meet tight deadlines and getting lost in trying to find the right words, and the ability to make sweeping changes with a prompt, it gives you more time to really deliver a higher quality document.
Looking ahead, I think we're going to see this approach become the new standard, especially as data privacy regulations get stricter. The days of casually emailing sensitive documents around for translation are probably numbered.
Well, this has been eye-opening. It's amazing how something as seemingly simple as document translation can have such complex implications for security and efficiency.
And that's really the key takeaway here. We finally have a working solution that meets the security needs of professional businesses, and a service that delivers ready-to-use documents in the way people actually want to work.